Hello and welcome to Medieval Dynasty. Well, it's now almost the end of spring, and as far as our chapters go, we just have to survive until the end of the season. Now, we do have an NPC. It's a case of I actually do need to find us something to do. Now, I'll have a look at the wheel and just see what we can build. So, we haven't unlocked enough technology and survival to be able to make a hunting lodge. If I go into farming, I can make fields, but I haven't got enough technology to probably build the barn. So the barn needs 10, so 10 points to go into that. What I could at least do is start building a field, and then what I can do is once I get enough technology out of that field, I can then start assigning her to it. So I'm just going to have a look and see. Yeah, so we need a log. Then we can build ourselves a hoe. Now, just having a look. That's assigned to slot 2 now. Right, okay. So if I go and chop a tree down. I mean, I'm just basically trying to get through the rest of this season. So I may as well at least do something. And then we'll roll over into the summer. Alright, so that gets me some logs. So I'll be able to make a hoe now. Now I don't... Yeah, I do need a hoe, I must admit, because what we've got to do is actually turn the field over. I mean, what we do is just place a kind of a marker down to say we want to build a field in this area. But we need the actual hoe to turn that over. Now, oh, that's interesting. I didn't notice that. Knowledge. So we've got choices here between crafting, knowledge, sewing. I mean, I could put it into cooking because I'm doing a bit of cooking, but for now I'm just going to leave it in crafting. That then opens up this option here, which is quite good because it allows you to upgrade the houses. By doing that, you can make better insulation. You get different types for depending on whether it's going to be a wood one, a stone one, or a stick house that you've built. Or wattle, if you will. At this stage, I'm not too fussed. I don't have any hit points left, but I'm to do that. But that's another useful option, I suppose, to be able to for your hammers to last longer. These ones allow you to work faster in those buildings, which is what I was referring back to as well back in the first episode where I was talking about this option where you can actually stack your crafting and do it all in one go. So these would to me, if you did that, it would render these kind of useless. And then you're into tier 4, but at this stage it's just pretty much those, and we'll probably one of those, I'd imagine. Oh, there you go. So we got we got that because we obviously went and made our hoes. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to tell it to build a field. I mean, we're way ahead of the actual tutorial, but I keep hearing something in the background. It sounds like a wolf and it's seriously freaking me out. I just hear this noise and it sounds like snarling. So that was pretty easy to lay out that field. Okay, so you get more information about them. So it's easy, well, just to show you, it's very easy to set them out. You just basically click on the field option there, so it gives you this like little post. So you place the first post down, and then you just drag it out as to where you want. Now the biggest field size you'll get is 16 by 16. If there's something in the way, like a tree or a tree stump, another building for example, it won't let you do anything there, which is a bit of a pain. So it means even if you chop a tree down, you're going to have to remove the stump. One thing to bear in mind is if we go over to trees here, or farming, see we're getting charged 5 coins in tax for the privilege. So once your field's down, first thing you've got to do is start to grub the field. And then once you've actually grubbed the field, you move on to the next step, which is to actually put fertilizer in. Now, there's different places you can get fertilizer from. You can get it from rot, where basically things that rot usually, you get to the end of the season if you've got like any rotten, any food that spoils, it will rot. It ends up as rot. And you can actually turn that into fertilizer. So that's one option you've got. Another option is to get manure, and you can turn that manure into fertilizer. Now, what I've found is you can actually go to the vendors to start with, and you can buy manure and you can buy fertilizer. There's not much incentive to buy the actual fertilizer itself. If you've actually got a barn, because once you get the barn, what you can actually do is you can actually create your own fertilizer from the manure, and fertilizer costs twice as much. So it's a case of, yeah, you're better off getting the manure, because what you can then do is you can, by turning that manure into fertilizer, you actually get experience from the process anyway, so it does make sense. And then once you've actually got your fertilizer put down, you've got to go back over it with the hoe, and then that'll help you to basically get ready so you can actually start to plant your crops in that field. Now the only trouble is, while I'm doing this, my stamina's going down something cruel. So it is getting a bit dark, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep running and doing that. So there you go. So we've progressed enough to get 5 points, which gets us the food storage. So that's a central storage where you can keep food. 10 points then gets us to the next level where we can get the barn. So now we've got a barn, we'll be able to make fertilizer, for example. Now it is getting dark, I must admit, so I'm just going to carry this on until the night. It's not that late, it's only getting on to 6 o'clock. I mean, I've got choices. I could just stop and then go to sleep and get up the next morning, but it doesn't really cause me any issues if I just carry on going. I mean, the benefit of going to sleep is that you heal. Now, I don't necessarily need to heal, so I'm just going to carry on with this field and get myself more technology experience. I mean, it is important because, I mean, if you think about it, you need something like 2,000 to be able to get as far as being able to make a stable, which is when you get a horse, and then you can then start going around a lot quicker on the map. So the farming makes sense to me to do that, things like that at night, basically. The only trouble is it just comes out really, really bad on the video, unfortunately. It looks fine to me, but I can see in the recording it is extremely dark. It's difficult to see, so I'm just going to carry on with this. The only thing to bear in mind is we're in the last day, though. As soon as this hits midnight, or at least ticks over past midnight, no matter where I am on the map, what will happen is I'll actually wake up in my own house. As I said, it doesn't matter where I am on the map, it literally forces you back to your house, and so you always start a new season with all your resource meters, reset back to the full, and you always start back in your house. The only thing that I would point out is that if you actually don't have a house, you can actually destroy your house. So if you don't have a house, it seems you end up actually respawning in some village at the start of a new season, so that's quite interesting. So I'll go as far as I can, but then we'll pick up from summer, which is the next season. Right, I've turned over 2 fields and it's just getting too dark for even for me now. So it's getting on towards almost 10 o'clock, so we're going to grab some sleep and then we'll roll over into a completely new season. So we're now into summer, and there's our potential bride-to-be. Yay! So what we're going to do is I'm just going to see if we can get a bit further on affection. It makes sense to keep trying to flirt with her every day until we can get her to say yes, basically. So
how are you?
I'm doing fine, thank you very much. Now, I don't know why, but what I've noticed is now that she's actually part of the crew, part of the village, I'm not seeing anything about affection. I can see her mood, but I can't see her affection. So that's a bit of a downside. The benefit is she's now in the village, so it means it's easy for me to find her. But the downside is I can't tell where we're at in terms of affection. Anyway, click on romance. We'll ask her if we can start asking Eric questions. So, we'll ask her that one. See if she's an optimistic person, maybe. Oh yeah, she's at least got 5 there, so she doesn't dream big anyway. I think she's more practical, down to earth by the sounds of it. Oh, what about a favourite colour? Then we'll ask her that. Well, at least that's gone up by 5. Okay, so she likes water. Good blue, fair enough. Now, that's a bit risky because we're only up to potentially, I'd say, 25. I can't quite tell, but I think that's where we might be at. Oh, now I don't know if she's got a sense of humour. I mean, we could try. I mean, what you can do, to be honest, if you're into this sort of stuff, you could just hit F5, and then if it doesn't go in your direction, you can just click on, you know, F9 to bring it back again. But yeah, let's ask her if she's interested in eating frogs. Oh, got +7. Ooh, okay, well that was useful. So I know she's interested in those. So now we're up to this point of where we can actually get a bit more up front. Now, we're actually maxed out now, so that's fine, but I've no idea what level we're at.
See you soon.
At least what I know is that what will happen is, as long as I keep flirting with her every day, eventually I'll get to the point where it says that the affection's maxed out. And then I'll be able to ask her, you've got to get a 100% affection. Anyway, we've now rolled over into the summer, and the next quest as far as the chapters are going is you need to do 3 quests for people. So just have a look. It says we need to be successful in flirting, which I have done, put a point in a skill tree, which we have done, and do some quests for 3 neighbours. For that we'll get 50 dynasty reputation, and we'll be able to boost out to be able to get 10 buildings built. Now, what I did over the night is I've actually built a second field. So I built this one, which was a 10 by 10, I think it was, and then it was a case of I destroyed it, and then I went through the same process again. Then it just got too dark. So what you can do is get your hammer out, right click and say to destroy it, and then that gets rid of that field. So you can start all over again, so that's pretty good. So what I'm going to do, incidentally, press K for my skills. We go into farming. Now, this is a bit deceptive, I must admit, because it says farming knowledge. So you get more experience for doing farming knowledge, but it's a bit odd, I must admit. What I found is if I do farming, as in digging up the earth, ploughing, putting the fertiliser in, seeds, that sort of stuff, this has no impact on that whatsoever. It only affects things like the barn work, and from what it's saying there is breeding animals. So once you get a barn, there's things you can do in that barn, and it seems that's what that specific skill seems to apply to. Because what I've found is if I put a point in here, I still only get the same amount of experience when I'm turning over the field. So for that reason, I'm going to leave it alone. Careful farmer, that could be useful. Skilled farmer, I'm not really getting at that point where I'm harvesting any crops anyway, so I think I'll put it into that because it seems reasonably useful. So I'll put it into that point, put the point into there. Now oddly enough, it then opens up tier 2. Now tier 2 is for a village whistleblower, which is to be able to summon your mount, but you need 2,000 technology points in farming before you can have a horse anyway, so I'm not sure why they put it so low. Farming master would be useful probably, because you use up less stamina. When you're turning these fields over, you use up a lot of stamina. Anywho, what I'm going to do, I want to build another field. I mean, I've got to bear in mind, one thing I'll point out is that these fields are on a grid. And when you're building a village, it actually makes sense to put your fields down, or even just use them to give you some kind of pointer to align your buildings to, because the buildings you can place at any angle, you can rotate them, point them in any direction, but the fields are on this grid and there's nothing you can do about that. So if I place that pole there, I'll drag this out to be a 10 by 10 field. That seems good enough. 10 by 10. The maximum you can get is 16 by 16, but what I want to do is, because we're getting enough technology, if I go into farming, I can build a barn now. So I think what I'll do is I'll build a barn up there. I'm going to have to chop enough trees down. I need at least 10 logs just to build the barn. And then there's going to be all the thatch, all the sticks, and all the extra logs that go into it. So I'm just going to pause the video there. We'll build a barn, because once I've got the barn built, I can actually get her to actually start turning this field over. And then I'll be able to then go off and do other things while she's working on the field. I'm not at the point where I'm actually going to be growing anything, but at least by turning the field over, she'll be getting me at least some farming technology. So we'll get that going, and I'll bring you back. Right then, so we should almost be finished this barn. But one thing I'll point out is that you don't have an option to do any editing on this. So for example, I can't change these walls to say wooden walls or stone walls. The only way to get a better barn would be to get a tier 2 barn and then a tier 3 barn. So they'll have better, but they'll be bigger, they'll have bigger storage capacity, but they'll, basically it's the design. They don't use wattle, for example, so they are a lot more sturdy and they don't need as much repairing. But unlike the houses, for example, over there, where I can choose if I want wattle or wood or stone, I don't have the option with these, and I think that's specifically because you've got these different tiers. So we're going to add in the last of our straw, and I think that should be it. That should get us our barn. Yeah, so that's our barn now completed. One thing I did do is I extended this field out a bit. I've created another field just to give me a bit of wiggle room if I need it, but since I don't need that anymore, because I'm using it as a marker point really. So I'll just destroy that, and that just lets me know that this barn where I've placed it, if I wanted to go to 16 by 16 fields, there's enough room now. So that was just a bit of a extra. Now then, what I did get out of that, because I was chopping things down and building things, is we have progressed. So my survival went up, so we can now actually build a hunting lodge, which is good, because once you get the hunting lodge, you can start to build bows and arrows, for example. My skills have also gone up in survival, so this time round I get 2 points. I'm definitely going to go with that one. That tier 2 one is a must, because it allows you to see things in inspector mode. So to show you what I mean, if I hold down the inspector key, you can see it's telling me, oh, I've got a field and it's not grubbed, for example. If I've left any logs lying around, it'll tell me. Well, there's a log over there, for example. So that's quite useful. Oh, yeah, I've actually got 2. I didn't pick them up because I don't have much carrying capacity. At the moment, we can only pick up roughly 35 kilos. We can improve that, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to put one of those points into that survival sense. So not only does that push it out so that we now can start doing the tier 3, so like survivalist's a good one, because it means your rate of use of water and food will start going down, which is good. Headstrong and water dancer, not particularly interested. Strong as an orc is a good one, because you'll get more health, but I'm more interested. I think that one makes more sense. It just depends on how much damage somebody's going to do to you. So that, for example, gives us 10% more health, but that one means you get 10% less damage. So it's a case of, if we're taking more damage, a high amount of damage, I think that would make more sense than, say, that one, because all that's just going to do is just keep increasing the pool. But in any case, we need to put another point into something, so I'm going to put that into, I'm going to put it into survival knowledge. Tempting as that one is, I want to put it into that one, because it now takes us up to saying that we're now going to get 10% more experience every time we're doing extraction. So that to me makes more sense. So anyway, we've now got a barn, which is rootin' tootin' useful. It's going to be a bit dark, I'm afraid. But what we get out of that is, if we go to the workbench, for example, it automatically unlocks poppy seeds, for example. We can, I don't know why that's particularly useful at this stage, but what we can do is we can convert rot into fertilizer. You need 10 rot to make 1 fertilizer. And you can also convert manure into fertilizer. So there's more of an incentive to go and buy the manure from a vendor rather than the fertilizer, because it'll boost our farming skill rather than if we just buy the fertilizer outright. They're two at the same price, so it doesn't make any sense not to, really. These are the schemes that we've got. You've got to pay to unlock them. This one, it's saying it's for the animal feed. We don't have animals yet, we're a good way from that, but you'll be able to make your own animal feed, which is cheaper than buying it from the vendor. But we need to get 100 technology. The daub, on the other hand, that comes in handy for these wattle walls, because it adds insulation. It makes the houses better, more reliable, and it means that it actually boosts the morale of your villagers. So what we have gained out of this is a chest, though. So what I can do is I can keep things in there. Don't actually have any on me, but I can keep things like the seeds in there, tools and all sorts, specifically for the farmer. Then over here we have just like a thrashing floor. These are all unlocked. It just means that once you start growing these crops, you thrash them on here. So for example, rye, you'll actually, when you harvest the field, you get rye. You thrash that out and you end up with the seed plus other things from that. Some of those, for example, you can actually convert into flour, but you've got to unlock them, so you can make flour out of the rye grain, out of the wheat grain, and out of the oat grain. But you can't really do much with flour until you get much further down in a tree progression anyway. The main thing is we've now got a field and we've got a farmer over there, she's got nothing to do. I mean, our morale is at, let's have a look where she's at. She's flat out on 0%. She's got nothing to do, and she's not overly impressed. So what I can do, I don't think I've got any, I've got a wooden hoe, but I'm going to chop another tree down. That's a maple tree, so I'll get 4 out of this. So the thing is, wooden tools just don't last very long. It makes a lot more sense to get better tools as soon as you can, but for now we're just stuck with wooden ones. So what I'm going to do, I can make wooden hoes, so I'm going to get 8 of these. So it gives me a bit of crafting experience as well, so it kind of makes sense really. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make these wooden hoes. He'll be using those to turn the field over. So at the moment the field just, well, it's just all the weeds and plants and all that, all the foliage. We can get her to do the work, so instead of us doing it, she'll do it. The good thing about that is we can then go off and do other things, and we'll get some experience out of it. So I'll just filter it out to tools and weapons. I'll give her the hoe that we had, and then there was extra 8 hoes that we've got there. So that now gives her a tool to use. So the idea is we just wanted to turn the field over. We don't have any fertilizer, so we can't, there's no point trying to grow anything yet until we get that. I'm just going to have a look in the chest here and see what we do have. So I do have some fertilizer, I must admit. What I was really looking for was leather. So I'll just come back outside. What you can also make at the start is a simple bag. You can buy them from the vendors if you like, but if we make a simple bag, and I'll show you what they do. So I'll put that into my my quick slot. So if I go over to the field here, it's saying it's not grubbed up. It needs to be converted over. But if I right click, I've got this simple bag equipped basically. If I right click, we've got options of orchards. Now this isn't an orchard field. There are farm fields and there are orchard fields, and the two are completely different. We're interested in just what is a normal farming field for growing vegetables and grains. So during each different season you can grow different things, but what you have to do is fertilise the actual ground first. So we've got to actually grub the field, which means we're just cleaning it effectively out, getting rid of all the rubbish. Then once we do that, we can then put the fertiliser down, and then we go back over it with the hoe again to then work that fertiliser into the ground, and then it becomes fertile for us to grow our grains and crops. There's all sorts of different things you can grow. Now the ones that I'm interested in, now one thing to point out, you'll notice some of these have got a little yellow cross against them because they're out of season. So we're in the summer, and you can see cabbage is the only one that we can grow. You can always put fertiliser down, but the actual grains and seeds that you've got can only be planted at a certain time of the year. So we are in the summer. So what we could do is we could actually plant cabbages, for example. Now to do that, what you would do is, actually I'll just go and grub field just to make it easier to explain. I'll go and get that. I'll get one of these hoes. So we'll put that into slot number 4, for example. So we come back to our field down here. We've got to turn that over. So if I get the hoe out, you can see it's saying not grubbed. So I use the hoe, and now it's saying it's unploughed, and you've got to put fertiliser in. So we've got our simple bag. You can get other types, more durable bags. This one's got a durability of 30, so it's not going to last too long. But if we grab our bag, we would select fertiliser, and then we just literally get it to put the actual fertiliser in. So where have I gone again? So that's not grubbed, that's unploughed. So I've got to actually, well, I don't actually have any fertiliser on me. Let me grab that. I'm not seeing any cabbages, but yeah, tell you what, it's because of the time, it's very, very dark. It's after 7, so what I can do is I can just go to sleep, and I think it makes more sense. So I'll do that, because then it'll be a lot lighter. Because the trouble is, you just can't see things clearly. Now it is raining heavily, which doesn't help at all. Like it is very, very loud. I'll try and get that turned down, but the idea is, I think it's still dark, the video, unfortunately, but if I select the field, we've now got it up to 8 fertiliser. So if you look in the bottom right corner, it's saying fertiliser 8. So because this ground has been cleared out, basically it's been grubbed, I can now put the fertiliser down. So you can see we've now got fertiliser there. But what I've got to do is I've got to work that into the actual soil. So I've got to get the hoe out and do that again. So now the actual ground is actually ploughed. So we go back to 8 again. So that's my at the moment we've got fertiliser in there. But what I could do, if I had some cabbage seed, I could select that. And then I'd do the same thing, and I would just plant the cabbage seed there. Now, I don't have any, and as I say, it is extremely loud. I'll put that away, but that's basically what you do, is you grub the field, and then you put your fertiliser down, and then you work the fertiliser in, and then you plant the seed. Once the seed's planted, then you're just basically leaving it. You don't have to bother watering it or anything. Yeah, probably could have done that at this stage. But the idea is we can automate all of this. So what I'm going to do, it's not as noisy in here. Turn my little light on so it's a bit clearer. So what I can do is I can automate all of that. I can get our NPC over there to do that. So if I go to management, I can ask Damroka to do that work. So at the moment her mood is 0. So I've gone into her details there. So you can press F to open details, or you can double click it. I'm now going to assign her to that barn as a workplace. So I just double clicked on that. And you can see at the moment the barn, the status of the barn is there's nobody assigned to it, and there's no work assigned for the barn. So if I double click on the barn again, I'll double click. It's got 4 slots. As you get more tiers up to like tier 2, then tier 3. You can assign more people, but I'll just double click on that. And then you've got to decide, is this person going to be somebody who works in the barn or somebody who works in the field? Now, if they work in the barn, they can do things like converting the crops over into flour, for example, creating a fertilizer and so on. On the other hand, if it's a farmer, they're the ones who actually do the work on the fields themselves. So it doesn't make any difference. The skill that you require is exactly the same, and it's farming. So you can see with Damroka here, she's got a level 3 in farming. So that's about the highest I can get out of an NPC when you're starting, is level 3. So I'm going to assign her to being a farmer. The barn itself has got nothing to do. It's got no tasks assigned to it. So if I go over to our buildings, expand out the barn, the farming, go into the details for the barn, you can see these are the sort of tools that are needed. You need a hoe in order to work the field, you need a bag in order to be able to plant crops, and then you need a sickle or a scythe to be able to then harvest things. Now, the sickle is a lot better than the scythe. The scythe, they tend to just cut one little section, whereas when it's an actual sickle, they cut a lot more, so it's a lot more efficient. But we're not at that point where we can create our own when it comes to assignments. So these assignments are specific to the barn itself, nothing to do with the field. It's specific to the barn. So the idea is if let's say, for example, we're growing wheat grain, what we can do is we can actually assign some time and say, we want 10% of that worker's time allocated to converting this grain, getting the seeds out and so on, thrashing it in the barn. And you've got a maximum of 10%, 100% to allocate for a person's time. Now, the one thing you can't do is we can't slide that, we can't click in that. So the only real way is to hold the plus sign down or hold the minus sign down. So rather than just clicking it and clicking it and clicking it, if you just hold it, the mouse down, left mouse key, just hold it down over the plus or the minus, and that gets you working. Now, the thing to point out is there's all these other things we could potentially be doing, but they need to be unlocked. At the moment, it's saying here that they're locked. I can't use these options. They're not available to me. Now, what I would want to do, to be honest, is I would really want somebody, if I do put anybody in here, well, I say if, when I put somebody in here, for me, the fertilizer is more important at this stage, in which case I'll split it 50-50 for now. The other things would be useful, but I can do those as well. I can gain actual experience a lot more than the actual barn worker does. But at some point you really want an NPC doing this anyway. So nobody's assigned, so it's not giving me any information here. So off Damroka goes. She's heading over to the barn because that's where the actual hoes are. So she needs a hoe. So she's actually going to get a hoe from the barn, and then she'll start working in the field. Now, if I want to do anything else, so these, for example, I've got to unlock them here. Same as, creating our flour, you've got to unlock them here. Now, what I will do... Oh, there she is. She's out in the field now. What I am going to do is, because it's a new day, I'm going to have a bit of a chat to her first. Fine, thanks. So if we go to option 3, which is romance, again, can't tell what our affection level is. Our mood's going up, which, if we just have a look.
Goodbye.
If we go into management, you can see our mood is actually now going up. So we've got, and it's going up quite quickly. It'll peak out at about 6%, I think, because of the type of house she's got. But because she's actually got something to do, her mood's now going up. It's not going down, which is a good thing. We've got our house, we've got our food, we've got our firewood and our water. So at least we've got it to the point where our mood was on 0. If it goes below a certain level, they just leave. Now at the minute, what's going to happen is because she's got some work, that mood will go up. The better the mood, the more productive we are. But anyway, we need to get the affection boosted up, don't we? Option 3, romance. So how are you doing, beautiful? She seems like an honest person, so I'll go with that one. Let's try that. Ooh, got +7 out of that one. Okay. Now, one thing I'll say is that sometimes these questions repeat, in which case that's an opportunity, because if you know exactly how much you're going to get, because every question gets you a certain amount of infection. So if you've already asked a question and it comes back up, you can always ask it again. I think that's a bit risky, that one. Ask her about the chicken bones. +3. Okay, so our mood's now up to 3%, so that's good. So that she didn't get that much, so I can ask her that question again. That last time that got a 7%. So that was good. I can. These are risky sort of questions to ask. I mean, I could ask that. It's always one of these things that asking a question like that is a bit risky because of the low appreciation level. So I'm just going to play it safe and ask her that one. So that's up 7. Right, so we're now maxed out for the day.
Have a good day.
Right, I'm just dashing into the barn where it's quieter because it's very, very heavy rain. So it's only 9:30 in the morning, but at least I've now got her working on the field. So it's a case of, we've got this field where we've done some work. Now, I think what I'll do is I'll just leave this as is. So what she's going to do is she's going to grub this field. So you can see at the moment, that box aligns with these ones where it's saying they're not grubbed up. That one's saying it's unploughed, which means that it hasn't actually, we're not actually at the point of, you know, putting the fertilizer in and so on. These ones, they're done, they're completed. So you would go basically from that stage to that stage, that one to the fertilizer, then from fertilizer to ploughed. So they're the two that we've done. Once you start planting crops, you'll see they'll go green, and then when they're ready to harvest, you get the orange there. Now, what you can do is you can actually set up an actual schedule here to ask them to plant specific crops, so we can automate this whole process. So we go into this option here, and at the moment there's nothing there, so we click on clear, and then you just tell them exactly what it is you want to put where. So we've got all the different types of crops and vegetables we can grow. Now, what I'm interested in is, at this time of year, all I can actually do is cabbages, basically. I don't actually have any cabbage seeds. So let me just go back in there again, click on clear. I don't have any cabbage seeds yet, but I could do with some before the season ends. If I click on the cabbages or double click, it allows me to specify whereabouts you want to grow cabbages. And what you can do is you can either click a specific little box, or you can actually hold the mouse button down and you can drag it out, which is quite useful. If you want to start planting other things, just go and select that again and then start picking other things. If you don't like what you've got, just go with the clear option, and then you can clear that field option out, the settings that you've got out there. So that's quite useful. So because it's just this one season, I've only got 8 fertilizer anyway. So I'm going to get her to grow cabbages over here. So I'll put the fertilizer in the chest in this barn, so she'll be able to get access to it. So she'll go through the process of clearing all of this field out. She'll grub the field, and then because there's these slots specifically allocated to growing vegetables, she'll then put the fertilizer in here. The reason I'm being very, very specific is if I told her to say like grow cabbages in these other areas here, for example, the problem I'd run into is she'd put fertilizer down in potentially areas where I don't necessarily want her to grow them. So like, let's say for example I want to grow oats. I should be more specific. If I say I want to grow oats here, it's out of season for growing oats, but she could put the fertilizer in these slots. Cabbages, on the other hand, are in season, so if she's putting the fertilizer in these slots down here, the problem is she won't have any fertilizer left to fill these slots in, and then she won't be able to grow the cabbages. So that's what I was trying to explain, is that you want to be a bit careful, and especially when you're starting out. Once you've got lots and lots of fertilizer, it's not really a problem. Later on in the game, you can get your own animals. So pigs, for example, will produce manure. So then you can start making your own fertilizer, which is useful. But for now, I am missing the actual seeds to make cabbages, and I could do with extra fertilizer as well. But I'm kind of running short on money. Oh yeah, if you hit escape, it asks if you want to commit those changes. So I'll just say yes. So at least now, if we go into the field, it's quite useful because it's saying down at the bottom, it's saying that there's eight slots set aside for cabbages, but at the moment nothing's planted there. All the rest are empty, so that's quite useful, I must admit. So she can get on with that. She'll grub the field and she'll start fertilizing those little slots. We're just missing the fertilizer, so that's something I need to get if I can. Now, one thing I do have, I suppose, is the oat ale that I've got could be worth something quite useful. Potentially maybe 90 coins I could get out of each of those, so that might get me enough to get at least a few cabbage seeds to be able to fill that slot. I mean, I could start setting other crops ahead of time. It's just the fact that she'll start using the fertilizer in there. I don't know if there's a specific order in which she does things, a specific pattern she follows. So at this stage, I just want to focus on what I can do. So the challenge now is to get enough fertilizer before the season ends. So what I'm going to do is I've got choices. I mean, I want some cabbage seeds and I want fertilizer, or more specifically, now that I've got the barn, I want manure. So I'm going to head down to Gostovia. I could go over to Rolnica, but I'm going to head to Gostovia. I should be able to get enough cabbage seeds, I think, from there, and then enough fertilizer or manure just to finish that off. And I'll just get enough for one row probably, because at this early stage I don't have much money. I can make more. There are ways to do it. I just want to get the ball rolling, because the good thing about cabbages is they'll be ready to harvest in the autumn, as far as I could tell. We're in the summer, they should be ready to harvest in autumn. And then the good thing about that is if I leave them out, I'll then be able to turn them into rot. But what also happens is when you harvest things, you don't just get the original seeds or grain back, you actually get that plus more. So if I grow 10 cabbages, for example, I'll get more than 10 cabbage seeds back next season. So it's once you do the harvesting, I should say. So it saves you a bit of money. And the alternative is just go out and just make a lot of money and then just be done with it, just buy it all in one go, I suppose. But each to their own. So anyway, I need to head down to Gostovia. Well, we've made it over to Gostovia. It's still heavy with rain and dark, so I've got the torch out. So I'm going to talk to Edwin, because Edwin sells various grains, seeds and so on.
How can I help?
Show me your ways. So as you can see, he sells all sorts of things. He can even sell you some of the tools. Now what I'm interested in is a cabbage seed. So if we go to resources or crafting, I can buy, it's going to cost me 120 to get cabbage seeds. So for that reason, it doesn't matter when it comes to vendors. They're not specific in terms of what you want to sell them. They don't mind, they'll buy anything. So for example, in this particular case of Edwin, I can't just sell him stuff to do with farming. I can literally sell him anything. It doesn't really matter. But at the moment, I only get like half price on the things I sell him. So he makes quite a bit of a profit. But I'm going to sell those ales that we got earlier. That gets me 360. And I'll use that to buy the cabbage seeds. That's 120. So I've got enough cabbage seeds. Now the other thing that I need is, I've got a choice. I can either buy fertilizer or I can buy manure. That's the end goal. I need fertilizer to be able to fertilize the actual fields. But because we've got a barn, I can buy 2 of these to make 1 of these. And if you look at the prices, it's 7.5 for fertilizer, 3 for manure. So just by buying that alone, it's cheaper. So there's no real incentive to buy the fertilizer. It's kind of similar if you look at the flax and the flax seeds. If you want to buy flax seeds, it makes more sense to buy actual flax, because this is what you harvest. When you grow flax seeds, you end up with flax. You then take that into the barn, thrash it out, and you come out with flax stalk and flax seeds. Whereas if all we do is buy the seeds and it costs the same amount of money, we're missing out on, flax stalk, for example, which we were getting more money out of that. So if I was going to start growing flax, it would make sense to get the actual flax itself. But we're in the autumn, in summer rather, so I can't use that. There's no point buying it now because I can't plant it. So what I think I'm going to do is, what I'll actually do is I'll buy some more cabbage seeds. If I get another 10 of them, that gets me enough to do 2 rows. There was 8. Yeah, there was 8. I need, if I can get 24 of this, that'll get me 12 fertilizer. So that gets me enough to be able to complete 2 rows by the looks of it. Hopefully my maths is still working. But yeah, I should be able to convert those into 12 fertilizer. I'm pretty sure I had 8 fertilizer that I found in a barrel, but I should be able to get two rows out of that. And then when they get harvested, I'll end up with like a lot more than 20 cabbage seeds, or rather cabbages, I should say, because we'll end up with cabbages as well as cabbage seeds. Now, you can actually eat the cabbage, so that's one option, or you can just leave it to rot. By being able to create the rot, I'll then actually turn it into fertilizer, so that'll save me a bit of money.
Have a good day.
Now, what I am going to do though is I'm going to head back. But one of the useful things we've got in inspector mode now, because of this skill here, because we've got this survival sense, we can see more things around us. So it says you can see mushrooms, feathers and herbs, but you can actually see sticks, for example, and you can see berries. Now, we're in summer, so if I harvest these berries, I can actually leave them out and get them to rot, and you'll get a lot from them. So as I head back to the actual village, I'm just going to keep an eye out for berries. I'm just going to harvest as many berries as I can along the way without getting overloaded too much. And it makes my life a bit easier now because I've got hello. So I've progressed in the technology there, but yeah, we've got a technology boost, so we can now make, which one was it? We're now being able to make a well now because there's farming stuff going on at the minute. So she's actually getting us experience in the background, which is why I wanted her to do that. So I'm out here trying to get berries and stuff so I can turn them into rot so I can get more fertilizer. In the meantime, she's working on the field, which, out of curiosity, where's she up to? So she's that far, so she's doing quite well. So yeah, I'm just gonna keep searching for berries, grab as many as I can so that I can then leave them out at the end of this season and have more fertilizer available for the next season. But we can also rely on being able to get a lot of rot out of the cabbages as well. So, see you in a while. Now both of us are in need of food, so I'm actually going to start hunting. But while I was out and about, I came across this. So we're actually quite close to where our village is. But someone's left a shovel here, so I'll grab that. And we've also got a chest here, so I'll take a bit of a peek and see what's inside. Ah, so that's interesting. So, in this particular chest, we've got 5 copper ore, and we've got 200 coin. So, these things are scattered around. So if you can find these in your travels, the ones I've found so far in another playthrough I was doing, there's always going to be some reasonable amount of coin. I found one that had like 300, for example. Maybe a potion, 200 and something else. So yeah, if you keep your eye out for those, because they're definitely useful. Ah, now that's not sounding like a much better day. It was getting too dark for me. Yeah, all that rain. Yeah, I just couldn't see much. Trying to even hunt for anything. I mean, the deer are a lot more difficult I'm finding because they run off and then they seem to like run in this big round and round circle. They're just getting crazy trying to catch one of them. So that's something I need to sort out. But in the meantime, where are we at? I've been gathering quite a bit of berries. Because of that, I've now got an extra skill in survival. Oh, that's good. So I'm going to put that into survival knowledge. I may as well max that out, because then every time I'm gathering things, I'm getting more and more experience. But that's a one-off. That's probably going to be the next target. I mean, it'll open up another good one, which is athlete, because that one means you can run for longer because your stamina wears out slower, in which case you can get around the map a lot quicker. So I'd probably start with that one just to open up tier 4 and then try and max that out, because that's extremely useful until you get a horse. In terms of her work, she's still working on the field here. As far as I'm aware, she's still got some horses, but I need to sort out the fertilizer. But good morning. Right, option 3. Need to work on this affection, which, as I say, we can't see it. Compliments probably don't work on her. I don't know if jokes work on her, that's the trouble. Oh, I wonder if I could ask her that one. Oh, she wasn't overly impressed by that one. Okay. What does she know about chicken? Oh, does she know anything about that? Sometimes I tend to find that's not so bad. Oh, at least got something out of that. So that's +3 out of the one about the chicken bones and dealing with the colds. Does she like compliments? I don't know. Oh, she doesn't like compliments. So, because we've hit a negative, that's it. She just knows that puts her off. So, probably haven't done so well today. Such is life. Right. In the meantime, I'm going to head back to the barn because I need to convert the fertilizer over. I put the manure in here. Or have I got it on me? Yeah, I've got it on me. So I can come into this workbench here. It's like the crafting wheel, and I can convert this over. So you need 2 manure to get 1 fertilizer. Later on in the game, when you open up a pigsty, for example, you'll be able to get pigs out of those, but they've got to be adults to do that, and you've got to then feed them. I mean, you can buy animal feed, or you can make your own, so there's a bit of an incentive to make the oats and the rye though, to do that. So if I give her that, now the problem is she's standing around, she's got nothing to do. I think she's run out of leather, or rather the bag. I think, oh, I've got the bag. That probably explains a lot. So I'll put the bag in the crate. And then she should, that gives her a bag to then, because I mean all this field's now grubbed. So the only thing left is to put the fertilizer in and then sow the cabbage seeds. So at some point, she might get a bit of an incentive to do that. In the meantime, what I do want to do is build another field, because when she finishes doing that, because there's still this season left, I may as well give her something else to do. It's a relatively small field, but at least it gives her some work. And the more she works on these fields here, I mean, it does cost me both, even if you're not actually using it, it's still costing me money. So that one, it's costing 2 in tax, that one's costing 5. But as long as she's working on these fields, it means this farming technology is slowly going up. So we're at the point where we can build, say, like a well. So that's useful in the sense that you can actually hire somebody to get the water from the well. I mean, it's kind of nuts, we're right next to a river. They can't just go down to the river for some reason. They have to have this this well, so you need either you do it or they, you hire somebody else to do it. So that's quite useful. And then we need about 100 to get into the hen house, which at this moment I don't particularly need. It opens up animal feed, which is something you need. You can make your own, but it's the pigsty, which needs about 250. So, I mean, the good thing is this is all now automated. We've got about one more day left of the season for her to put all the fertiliser in, to work that in, and then to start, putting the cabbage seeds in. Now, if she hasn't finished as we get close to the end of the day, I'll probably jump in and help. That makes a lot of sense. I want to make sure that's finished, because then I can use those cabbages that we do get when they're harvested to rot. In the meantime, what I've been doing is been gathering a lot of berries, and I'm just leaving them here for now, because the idea is I want these, when we get to the end of this day, I'm just going to drop them on the floor and leave them to rot. And then if I go over to the workbench, I can convert 10 rot into 1 fertiliser. So that's another source. So the idea is I should be able to get some rot out of the cabbages when they get harvested, and I should be able to get some rot out of those berries. Now that's interesting. It looks like she's lost interest in doing that. She's gone over to that, which I might, in hindsight, I might have been better off leaving that. Right, tell you what, let's destroy this, because I wanted to focus on that. Yeah, I really needed to focus on that first. That's the priority. So the reason I said it, I don't know what the priority is. I don't know, for whatever reason she went so far putting fertilizer down that it was like, yeah, I've lost interest, and it just starts working that. So I don't know, kind of strange. I would have thought it made more sense to finish this lot first. I don't think the AI is quite there. But in the meantime, she'll just get on with that. But the main thing I really need now is we're running out of food. I can't rely on the field, and I'm having real fun with trying to catch deer, for example. So I think, just have a look and see where we're at in terms of building. So hunting, yeah, we can make a hunting lodge, which means I can actually build a hunting lodge. I can hire somebody to look after it, and then they'll go out and do the hunting. So they'll be able to bring back the meat for the villagers, including myself. I mean, I'll be at this stage, I'll be able to turn that into roast meat, for example, for them. But it'll deal with all the food requirements that we've got. It'll make life a lot easier. So yeah, I could definitely do with a hunter and a hunting lodge. It's much further down on the tutorial, if you will, on these chapters. But that's my priority. That's all for another episode.